Alright, I'm cleaning up the base of the cylinder assembly here to try and minimize any leakage. And I've got a raised area of metal right here I'm going to have to grind off. And that corresponds to a little channel right here where the looks like the timing chain may have been rubbing and actually wore the metal back that way. So I don't know if they were running this with the chain too loose or what was going on there, but I'm going to want to take care of that so I have a good mating surface so I can actually feel it's a sharp little burr, and I'm going to grind that off with a Dremel tool. Okay, I just use a very small fine grit stone and just go along the very edge here to get rid of that little burr. Now I can go back to removing the rest of the gasket material. Okay, I've cleaned off the old gasket material. Now it's time to install the timing chain tensioner assembly. So that basically has to go in from the bottom here. That goes in this rod right here. Has to go into this hole right here, but then this spring has to get hooked up on the top. So I'm just going to drop this in this way. So this is what it looks like coming up from the top. You can see the spring there, and then I got to grab that spring and get it into this little hole right here. Okay, that's now installed, and I want to reinstall my locating pins that I took out while I was cleaning this, so that I don't forget them before I want to put them in before it's too late. So they go in on this side here. Now I've got to find the little assembly here, the little stud and locking nut that goes in here with an O-ring on it, and install that. Okay, there's a little tiny O-ring on here that should be replaced before reinstalling this. The cheapo kit that I got, gasket kit, came with some O-rings, but it didn't come with one small enough to do this one, so they must have neglected to put it in the kit. So I'm just going to reinstall this old O-ring. It isn't all chewed up. You know, I'd like to replace it, but I don't really want to hold up reassembly any longer, and I'm going to just worry about that later. If I do develop a leak here, this is easy enough to change this O-ring, to take this out, change the O-ring without having to take the whole motor apart, although I will have to reset the tension on the timing chain. But for now, we'll just install this one. Now, in accordance with the service manual, I'm going to pull down on this rod before I tighten this, so that this will be in the lower position. It doesn't say how far to pull it down, so I'm just going to kind of pull it down a couple inches or an inch and a half. Alright, so now I'm going to make sure I have a good liberal coating of clean engine oil all over my piston. Now I'm going to install the new base gasket. Okay, I've got clean engine oil on my piston. Now I got to get clean engine oil on the cylinder surface, and then I'm going to install the cylinder onto the crankcase, and I also want to make sure that I get my timing chain fed up through the slot with my little handy dandy wire, and get that fully seated. You gotta compress the rings with your fingers as you're sliding it up into the bottom of the cylinder. The cylinder's got this beveled edge to it that really makes that easy. Okay, I've got the top of the piston with the rings in there, and so now I'm going to give the side skirts of the piston one last little wipe of clean engine oil. Alright, cylinder's now in position. Now I need to install the other plastic guide for the chain that goes on this side. Okay, the cam chain guide goes down with this end here, with the wide end that goes down in first, and it actually engages a slot down inside there. You're not going to probably see it in the camera, but basically when that engages that slot, then these two tabs right here at the top will pop right into their slot, and then the whole thing will be captive. So that's how that should go. And then of course you can clearly see that there's slight wear marks on this side that would indicate this is the side that faced the chain, but it does have a completely different look on the back, and not only that, but it's not completely smooth. Next step is to install the cylinder head. First I'm going to prep the head. I'm going to clean up some of this dirt that's on it, and I haven't done a thing to the head, and I don't plan on doing anything to it other than I'm going to decarbonize it, which is just a matter of using a brush to clean all of that carbon buildup off of the valves and the combustion chamber. I didn't get too finicky with this, but you can see I got most of the carbon came off. Just use a small handheld wire brush, and looks pretty good. Close enough for government work. I guess I should clean up this exhaust port area there. See if that's the remnants. Yeah, it looks like that's the remnants of the gasket still on there too. Alright, just pry the old gasket out. This sorry looking little thing that they sent me right here is the replacement one. So it'll be interesting to see how well that works. I'm hoping that's some sort of a asbestos-like material. Assuming that's what that is. Okay, time to install the new cylinder head gasket. The new cylinder head gasket doesn't appear to have any markings on it to indicate which side faces up, which would leave one to assume that it doesn't matter. Scratch that. It does matter. If I had put it on upside down, this cutout area here that's there for this guide would be on the wrong side. You can actually see there's a different shape to this side versus that side. So just by luck I happen to get it on right. Time to install the head. Now it's time to install the cam chain tension adjuster. But first I'm going to put a new O-ring on. I think the kit did come with the O-ring, so I'm going to check that now. No, of course not. This is the O-ring. I just took off the original O-ring off of this tensioner. And these are the two little O-rings I have left over that came with that kit. So far I'm 0 for 2 on the O-rings that I'm supposed to have to do this rebuild. So I'm going to reuse this one too. Light film of clean oil on the O-ring before you insert it helps it go in without damaging the O-ring. That also goes for the O-ring on here. And the next step is to insert this long bolt, which is right here. Supposed to insert it, but not tighten it. So I'm just going to lightly set it in place and not torque it down at this time. Well, the next step is to install the O-ring, the new O-ring on the intake pipe. They're assuming you took the carburetor off of the intake pipe. So this is the intake pipe here. Interesting thing is, I just picked it up and looked at it. It's got a gasket on it. And looking at this mating surface, this also clearly, you know, the gasket was what was doing the sealing on this. Here's the picture in the service manual. And they're showing definitely there's supposed to be a groove in there with an O-ring. So this is another big clue that tends to make me think that maybe we're dealing with somebody that repowered this '03 motorcycle with an older engine. So that is very interesting. Well, let's see, where's the serial number on this thing? All right, got a VIN number on the engine of H as in Henry, E as in Echo, 03, E as in Echo, dash 6136731. So the big question is, what does that mean? Well, that cheesy gasket set that I bought didn't bother to come with the gasket for this. Or if it was supposed to come with an O-ring, it didn't come with that either. So either way, I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm tempted to just try and remount it with this gasket with some RTV on it. Yeah, I know. Don't do it. Alright, well. I'm RTVing that sucker. Okay, there was no specific torque value given for these two bolts, so you just use the generic torque chart in the service manual. And for 6mm bolts with 8mm heads, which is what these are, the torque value is 10 Newton meters or 7 foot-pounds, which 7 times 12 would give you 84 inch-pounds. So that's what I torqued these to. And I did put a light coat of RTV sealant on there. Let's just keep that between us, okay?